What is up, YouTube? So today we're going to be going over using reverb and just different ways of using reverb, whether it's to enhance something, to be creative, or layer with it, or make like effects with it. So the first thing is using light reverb. So if you use reverb lightly, it's just gonna give it some space to the sound, but the sound's still gonna be up front. And there's a few ways of doing this. So I would do less than 20% on the reverb. And so if we get a before and after, so you see it gave it some space. If you wanted a longer tail, obviously you would take out the decay. But if you use that at like the 700 to a second range, crank this up a little bit. You're giving it a nice layer. The sound is still up front, but you know, you're thickening it up, you're giving it more space, and it adds a cool airy effect to the sound without diluting the sound. And that's a good way to just basically use it on all your sounds. I put a little bit of reverb on all my sounds because I don't, unless you really want it dry, but a lot of my sounds I don't want dry. You know, I want to give them space with and all that stuff, maybe a little bit of tail. It just depends on sound to sound. So that's going to keep your sound up front. Now, if you want to wash your sound out or like kind of push your sounds in the background, that's when you would want to crank this dry wet up. So we'll also turn it down too, because you're going to want to turn it down. I need to put that on there. So you see how that one's, let me put it on both so we can go back and forth. Control V, there we go. So on the first one, we're going to crank it lightly. So you see, sound's still up front, it's layering with the reverb. Now, if we want to push it back, like say for the intro and stuff, we could go ahead and crank up the dry wet. So say this is like the intro, you're building up, and then you could like, you know, automate the dry wet back so it's slowly coming in, but not all the way to where it's present, and then on the drop, you know, you come back to this. So, you know, it's there in their face. That's why you also want to kind of turn it down when it's in the background too. And then, you know, the drums will be on top, be in your face and stuff like that. So now let's get into like vocals and stuff. There's a way to layer it, which I like to do as well. So I don't know if any of you guys listen to Panic at the Disco, but this is the first acapella I came across in my folder. I just dragged it in because it doesn't matter what genre it is, it's gonna work for everything. And they also did something I wanted to show you right here at the beginning, so, and it's the reverse reverb. So it's like the O, so it's like oh, you take the O, put a reverb on it, and you would give it a long tail, super long. We'll duplicate it, turn this off. So like right at the O. Then you could put on a really long reverb. And that's, you would resample that. That's when you get the, you know, you fade it in. So if we freeze and flatten this, obviously it's not going to be the same because one, I'm quickly going over this. And, you know, I'm not really listening to where the real tail of it starts. But if we keep shortening this, a fade on it as well, or like volume automation. But now we can go ahead and delete that, and we should be able to have a similar result. See? So it's a quick technique to really lead into vocals instead of just going, well, imagine. It goes into it. Well,
imagine as I'm pacing the pews.
And obviously, I have the reverb on here, so we took that off.
Oh, well, imagine as I'm pacing the pews in a church corridor, and I can't help
But, so say we don't want the reverb actually on this channel, that's when we could send it out to the reverb. I have a short reverb at the 700 milliseconds. Then I have it at 1.8 seconds and a 5-second reverb. And that's when I could go ahead and feed it to it, and it'll be layered onto it. So if you listen, pretty quiet, but it layers with it and just adds to the sound rather than kind of taking away from that. So you kind of want it dry on top and then layer in on your vocals, and that'll give you the best performance out of your vocals, I guess. I don't know how to say that.
Oh, well, imagine as I'm pacing the pews in a church corridor, and I can't help but to hear, no, I can't help but to hear an exchanging of words.
You know, then you could automate that at the last part, give it a tail.
Of words.
And that'll give it a nice tail out. So those are my techniques on using reverb. Obviously, you know, there's thousands of ways to do it, but these are the main ideas of using reverb, and just thinking in your head, oh, I want to push the sound back. Let me add some reverb on there, cut the high end off. Whereas this one, you know, you could take the high cut off and have the full sound. And then when I layered it with these, you see I'm cutting out the low end and a little bit of the high, so it just kind of fills in the sound but doesn't dominate the presence of the sound and the low end of the sound. I want it to sit underneath and be airy and stuff and not really come in with that. And then this is the same thing, but you can see my low and high cuts are off on these. That's why I just used the EQ so I could dial it in. And then resampling the tails to get you your lead-in reverse vocal.
Oh, well, imagine as I'm pacing the pews in a church.
So I hope you guys enjoyed that tutorial and you're more comfortable using reverb. The settings vary, just mess with them. There's no right or wrong. Once you know like the achievement you're going for, you just, you know, heavy dry wet on this to push it back. Small amounts, 20% or less, and smaller decay to layer the sound and just, you know, add to the width and stuff. For vocals, I like to layer them with a separate channel, so you can just duplicate it and do it that way. But I like to use sends. It's much easier, and you know, you don't have like 4 of these stacked up. It just, you know, sends them out to here, and the audio layers in with this. Then to create the reverse reverb, you just get that first and then give it a long tail. You saw we had a super long tail. You just keep shortening it, and then fade it in or use volume automation to give you this little ramp and lead into your vocals.
Oh, well, imagine.
And using a longer reverb and automating it to kind of bleed out your vocals and give it a little tail when they end will kind of help you, you know, go into the transition better in the next section of your song. So as always, don't forget to subscribe, click that thumbs up, helps us out. If you want free presets and all that great stuff, go to join.tarant.info. Link is in the description. I'll see you guys on the inside. I'll talk to you in the next video. Peace.